Welcome to the FOXSEE 6 Units of Study Writing Resource Center video. The purpose of this video is to share information regarding the resources you're about to receive, discuss the use of materials, offer support when implementing units of study writing, and discuss future plans to grow this project we started this summer. To begin with, I wanted to provide you with a little bit of background as to where these resources where they came from and how they were developed. The resources you are about to receive came from teachers across our district. They spent this summer working towards writing lesson plans for their classroom use. Again, the audience for these lesson plans were the specific teachers who were writing them. However, we felt as if the value in what they created was so great that it would be nice to offer these materials to teachers across the district. So here's what to expect. Please note that the resources and what you may receive may vary across each grade level. That was due in part to the number of participants we had in the summer professional development. We, in some grade levels, had more than one person working on lesson planning in PowerPoint or Google Slides. In other grade levels, we didn't have a participant. So it's going to vary a little bit as far as what's offered. Initially, even though we have more developed, you will receive the first unit. I'm setting up just the first unit because I'd like to polish up some of the other units and what's inside of those and maybe fully develop them before you get, so that you could get a finished product. So in grades K through 5 and 7 and 8, you have daily lesson plans you will receive for the units of study for the first unit. In grades K, 3, and 5, you also will have Google Slides that will accompany the lesson plans. I'm also going to send in the folder at least the lesson plan template and the Google Slide template so that you're able to plug in information if you wish. The reason for the lesson plan format and the format of the Google Slides was for ease of use. There's a lot of information covered within the units of study, and we developed kind of a systematic way of sharing information. Eventually, we'd like to work towards having sharing folders where anchor charts and other resources you locate could be pulled into these source bins and then shared out across our district. So let's take a moment to jump into what a shared folder might look like. This is an example of a third grade folder. So when you receive, after you complete a request and I receive it and I share the folder out, this is what the shared folder will actually look like. If you're not familiar with what Google Slides or the Google platform, I guess, looks like, when it's shared with you, you will notice that, for example, you're going to have this with this icon, that those are the actual lesson plans you will receive. These yellow boxes will be all of the individual PowerPoints that accompany each day's lesson. Please notice the coding. For example, you'll notice a 1 and then a .9. That stands for Unit 1, Lesson 9. This one, for example, is Unit 1, Lesson 8. That was our way of trying to keep it straight with all of the information we were creating. So let's look at the actual lessons. Here's a little bit of a breakdown. I wanted to go a section by section with you. You'll notice that within each of the lesson plans, sorry for this little dude popping up, you will have your title. And then I have provided for you a little bit of a unit overview, just so that you get the big picture of where this unit's going. All of the Common Core standards that align to the specific unit are listed and fully listed for you. These are going to be the major areas of our major Common Core standards that are emphasized throughout the unit. The next section of the lesson plan will have a daily breakdown of what the entire unit looks like. It will contain the bend, the number of the day or the approximate number of days the lesson would take, the lesson number, you have your title, and also we developed learning targets that looked as if they would support each of the lessons for each day. So again, this is kind of a big planning map for you if you choose to use it, just to kind of show how the whole unit actually breaks down. I also included for you, and I think it might be cut off on this side just a little bit. My screencast can only go so far out, but I also included for you, in case you were interested, a description of each bend. So for example, this is bend 1. I give you an overview of the specific bend, the lesson number, the title of the mini lesson, and then what specific standards are covered in writing, reading, speaking, listening, and language. Please notice that in the reading standards, some of our bins will also contain reading informational text. Those standards would be applied to. So this might help a little bit with your assessment and providing grading. The bold standards that you'll notice within the slides, the bold standards are the ones that are really emphasized in the lesson. This is for every bend, you will have one of these charts. So when you're looking at your lesson, it will start with the whole unit. It will start with your on-demand writing assessment. You can find this in the Units of Study book in the very beginning. However, they will talk a little bit about in the lesson plan about the directions for that. If not, again, just refer back to the Calkins book. So here's what the actual lesson plan looks like. To begin with, you have the lesson. Most of them will actually have the page numbers that you can refer to and work with when you're reading this. You'll see this is the learning target that goes along with that day's lesson. The materials section, after actually reading through, many of the teachers who wrote the lesson plans have implemented the program, implemented it last year. These were the specific things based on this specific lesson that they felt would be important to gather for that daily lesson. So it might not mirror exactly what it says in the Calkins book. This list of materials stays true to this specific lesson. So it starts with, here's kind of the format. Briefly, we have our connection, and it tells us specifically what are the things that we should zoom in on as far as the connection is concerned. The teaching point, what are the top things during that mini lesson we should make sure that we are doing with our students. Active engagement breaks down all of the things that we can choose from to do to make sure our students are set on the right path. The link section of the lesson tells us basically what that assignment is and what we're going to send our learners off to do. We even included the mid-workshop, what would be important to reiterate or to stop our writers and just to make sure we're, again, heading down that right path. The final part, after the writers have written, we have our share component. There are lots of different ways we can share. Our books give us lots of different ways, but here are just a few that you can choose from, again, to kind of narrow it down to make sure students are having their writing valued. The final section of the lesson plan, we have a box for conferring and small group work. In this box, in some of the grade levels, you'll actually, and in some of the lesson plans, you might have a note every once in a while, a look for, or what might work well in conferring in small group. This box can be used for your daily note-taking to see what you're observing or what you might want to plan for. Evidence of learning. I went and worked with the Bend overview, gave you your learning target one more time. And specific to this actual lesson, I pulled from that chart I had and said, these are the specific standards one more time if you just want to check in to see if we want to have conferences around these standards or if we want to evaluate on these standards. By no means should we collect evidence of learning on all of these lessons, only when it's appropriate. I just wanted you to see what this lesson lent itself towards. Again, only after exposure and after we feel like we've done a thorough job should we really be collecting some of that evidence of learning. So these are the PowerPoint slides. Again, not all grade levels have these, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an understanding of when you click on the PowerPoint slides, what would you expect? You're going to have the title of that specific lesson. The code is exactly the same. This is Unit 1 for 3rd grade, the 9th lesson. And these are the page numbers that you can use to support the lesson plan. So the PowerPoint start, we use the same format for every grade level. We put the learning target up so that the students, we can communicate what the learning target is. We have a connection. By no means is this a comprehensive or complete connection. These slides are made primarily to help remind the teacher of what goes into each section, so they're not bound to holding a lesson plan or the book in their hand. This is just enough to hopefully remind you of what needs to be completed in each section. So here's a connection example. The teaching point, again, does not have enough information to do this on its own, but this gives you enough of a reminder point and enough of a visual that you should be able to work with the students. Active engagement, again, a visual reminder. When we stop those students and have our mid-workshop, we are going to have just the teaching point that you might want to emphasize. We may have an anchor chart, or we might have some tips for the mid-workshop. In the share, there might be some anchor charts there as well, or there just might be an icon indicating what we wish the students to do during that sharing portion. What I would like to do, the slides, or the Google Slides, tend to be the thing that we wanted to get the lesson plans out first and foremost. So they're kind of hit and miss as far as which grade levels actually have the Unit 1 lesson plans. So I am going to attach one blank slide template, so that as you're reading the lessons, you see the format now. If you wish to plug in your own information onto the slides, you can do so. Please feel free to share those with me, because lots of teachers in our district would love to have any of the slides that you're working on. So what's in store? Again, as I just discussed, you can help by adding to our bank of resources. Just as these teachers have done, the audience, we know that we are not experts on this by any means, but it does help if we all join together and work together towards building a better resource bank. The resources I've talked about in this video, if you're interested in receiving or having me share the folder, again for Unit 1, lesson plans, the lesson plan template, the slide template, and in some cases the actual slides, please send a request and complete a request form at this Google Forms page, and then I will share out the resource folder. It was really important to me to have a Google request form so that I can create a kind of a list of people who are receiving these resources and get some feedback for you as to how they're working for you. What tweaks do we need to do for the next units, the ones that we are developing and have developed? Are there some changes? So the feedback part will be very, very important. I'm also always seeking people to write alongside me and to help develop some of these useful tools for the teachers. One of the most important things I can tell you, though, is these resources do not stand on their own. They are meant to accompany the reading that's happening within the Calkins materials. Only snippets of the entire program have been pulled into these lesson plans. In order to really understand the program, you must look at those lesson plans, read the background, look at what the literacy coach portion has to say. That way we are for sure not skipping any of the essential knowledge that we need in order to successfully implement this program. All right, so it looks like that's the end of the slides. Please take a moment to go to this Google form as indicated, and you will be receiving an email from me shortly. And happy resources. Thank you.